Welcome to my humble little office. My name is Archie Sanders. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on March 31st, 2020 at approximately 4:18 p.m. PST. Now, I returned to this planet for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally live by, that I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life that I talk about are the exact same ones I personally live by. Now, before I get into things, something I do want to point out is I only follow 3 laws. Okay, but before I lay them out, double check them with the laws you feel that you follow, whether they're spiritual, legal, family laws, whatever. Okay, support laws. Okay, check them compared to these 3, and I do believe you will find that they all fit inside the 3 I follow. The 3 karmic laws are: be true to yourself first, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you, energy out, energy in. Okay, now compare the laws that you follow, and I do believe you'll find they fit there. Kimberly, how you doing? You're in with the gold. Yesterday and last couple of days have been absolutely bizarre, but how we doing there, Eternity? And you're in with the silver. I kid you not, on Wednesday, for whatever reason, YouTube decided to try and put 2 streams up at the same time. And there is CJ with the bronze. And net result, I couldn't shut one of them down. And as it turned out, it took about 4 hours to straighten out the mess. The reality is computers for me do not cooperate most of the time. They just don't. Okay. But I got looking at it, and I've listened to a number of different podcasts, and I randomly pick one to look at, and something got me thinking. Joe, how you doing? Hope things are going well for you. Just major computer problems on Wednesday, and then of course yesterday, which is Thursday. Well, that's my gaming day, so I'm not going to come on anyway. Besides that, my son turned 18 and decided he wanted to go to see John Wick 4 at the movies for his birthday. So we did. So between that and gaming, I was actually gaming. I was actually gaming until 11:30 on Thursday night, which meant about 12:30 getting to bed. How you doing, Shadow? Glad you could join us. Hopefully you've been keeping busy. Knowing you have. I spent most of the day taking a look at my computer desktop, and I now I've started moving. Yeah, Kimberly, absolutely. But I do suggest you double check it. In the link, I didn't get a chance to get back to you, but the link itself didn't work for me. That is not saying much. But thank you for double checking that there, Kimberly. I appreciate it. No, for me, computers get absolutely screwy, but I spent today taking what I could of the files that I had, of the books I'm working on, moved them all up onto my top monitor, went through, made sure I had the right ones. And, when you couple that with I only ended up moving, including the 2 control files on Excel sheets, I ended up moving 12, 14, 15, 17 files on stuff that I'm writing. Anyway, what I was looking at, I feel really out in left field half the time. Okay. And the reason for that is because I listen to a lot of, and I only do it, I don't spend a lot of time with them. But everyone, literally every five, virtually every podcast, every report that I see, people on the whole seem to be looking at this whole thing going, the abductions are happening, the off-worlders are here. Absolutely. Okay, absolutely they're here. Problem is, so many people are focusing on the idea of they're gearing up for an attack. They're controlling this world. Okay, they're controlling everything mankind does. Or they're going to come down and straighten this mess out, or better yet, God will. Now, I feel very much out in left field here. Because I'm listening to these, and I have yet to stumble across one where the focus is on the actual unification of the whole setup, or the possibilities of a unification. What I gotta point out here is, if let's just take the consortium out of the equation, let's take the control factor out of the equation, and let's just look at the issue of, we'll start with the off-worlders and go, if they were interested in wiping out and taking control of this planet, they'd have done it a long time ago. Okay, never mind anything else. Okay, like I said, just take a look at that side of it. If they were in fact here in a detrimental capacity, does it not make sense that there would be more of a direct impact instead of leaving it all hidden? Yes, leaving it hidden does have the added advantage. Okay. Leaving it hidden has the advantage of humans being able to absolutely destroy themselves in their own circle of fear. Okay. But this is what I'm referring to when I say we've got to start communicating a little bit more effectively. Because right now, what I'm seeing, the major message that I'm seeing, and I only look at periodic ones, but you'd think when you hit periodic ones with if you're just taking shots in the dark, you'd find something that wasn't bought into this whole idea of the world being destroyed by aliens or being controlled by it. Okay. Now, I still hold that if you go back to 1977 and 1982, when the series and the movie V came out, okay, that's where this whole idea was really punched into the middle of it, where it was really sunk in that that reptilians were taking over the planet. They'd infiltrated the monarchy. They'd infiltrated the major corporations. And the reality is, let's just say I'm completely off my nut, and I am the only one looking at this going, this has to be a brighter setup. How are we doing there, Henry? Glad you could join us. I'm looking at this going, if I'm the only one that's seeing it, is it possible that I'm absolutely wrong? And certainly it is. But it begs the question, if the off-worlders are controlling everything, why bother with that primitive of a civilization? These guys have capacity in weapons development that there is no way man could compete with. Okay, we're just completely outclassed. Okay, their healing techniques, you just take a look at the combat, never mind the healing techniques. The weapons these guys have, the technology they have for transportation and relocation, makes this place, if any of them take all the control out of the equation, if any of them were interested in taking over, does it not stand to reason it would have already become absolutely undeniable public knowledge? Okay, if you want to control something, if humans want to control things, okay, they try and do it behind the scenes. But if you're so overpowered, if you are so heavily overclassing your theoretical opponent, you don't bother hiding it. Okay, you just walk in and go, here I am. And personally, and call me completely off my nut, absolutely. But, you look at this. Well, I look at it and I'm going like, what am I missing that so many people are locked on the idea that the offworlders are here to cause harm, that they're here looking for a weakness? The weakness is easy. Okay, the weakness is extremely easy. Humans are frail, very easy to take out. I mean, let's face it. Mankind, you go back when the Europeans first got to North America. Okay, they brought a tiny little virus with them and wiped out most of a nation, or at least a major chunk of it, without any functional effort at all. Okay, there are so many people that are talking about how these races are violent, and they are. Don't get me wrong. Okay, you take a look at some of these guys. I mean, you look at the weapons they use. Okay, you don't build, and this is just one example of it. But this funny little mace here, where is it? This one right here. Okay, look at the size of it compared to the size of a human chest. This wasn't built to say hello. It wasn't built to tap lightly on the door and say, would you please let me in? Okay. So when you're looking at this, we've got to get away from this rhetoric, and I do call it that quite readily. And I know I'm going to upset somebody, but frankly, I don't know what else to do with it. But we've got to get away from this rhetoric that the offworlders are getting set to invade Earth. When are they going to show themselves and tell us that, oh, we're really here? Newsflash, the odds are they're not. They do that and mankind's society collapses. Why? Because humans believe right now, and it's getting better. Humans now, the better portion of them, last I heard, which was about a year ago, last I heard, the statistic I heard reported was that 62% of people during this one major survey reported that they believed that aliens were here, that aliens were a reality. Okay. Now, this is much better than this idea about 10 years ago when it was sitting at like 45. 40 or 45. So we are making headway realizing that mankind is not alone. But we've got to get away from this rhetoric of, first of all, what do we got? Kimberly is saying, my alien encounter was with a man looking like he was from India. I had no idea they were common until I was on Rob's podcast. No, and this is very much why I say, and I appreciate that, Kimberly. This is why I say it is absolutely imperative that, we start piecing this together. Now, am I starting to put a database together? Absolutely. Somebody mentioned it the other day. I think it was YJ. These are way more common than you might think, but most people are still under the fear, if you will, that acknowledging this is going on is going to make you some sort of an outcast. The ironic part of it is it's becoming more of a functional issue. The drawback to that is so many people I'm listening to, and like I said, I don't spend hours listening. I'll scan through something. I'll listen to it in the middle of it for, 10, 15 minutes, if that, right? But you'd think at that point, if you listen to 100 different podcasts, even at only 5 minutes or 10 minutes in the middle of one, okay, if you listen to 100, you'd think you would hear 2 or 3 that really focused on the positive aspect of it. I have no doubt about that, Joe. And, you've got an interesting situation. Unfortunately, that's what most people go through. Like Joe's just saying here, this is a very sensitive subject for me, but I'll say it here because I will not get judged. I've been through a lot with my parents, verbal abuse. Yeah, and I bet it's still going on. And unfortunately, this is a thing that we have to band together with, really. Hey, Adam, drive safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the road more than you're on the stream. But no, absolutely, Joe. The whole concept of my personally judging anybody, or for that matter, accepting other people judging people, I'm not good at it. I'm really not, because I wasn't there with what you've gone through. I've gone through my own sheep, and the reality of it is that this is not a situation where I'm just looking at that emoji, Kim. It's interesting. I don't deal with emojis much, in case you hadn't noticed. But no, we've got to look at the fact that if the offworlders were to just all of a sudden show up and go, "Hey, we're here," okay, it would create absolute chaos, because humans have come to the understanding, they've been taught, and frankly, they've been taught erroneously, in my opinion, that man is alone. Okay. Now, to this event and to this effect, I was moving the files around today. Turns out, like, I had 59 races in the races of the worlds. I just put races of the worlds 2 into balance, and we have another 48 in the second volume already that I'm starting to add information to. The funny thing is that one of the biggest issues where it comes to offworlders, oh, thank you for the clarification there, Kim. Don't mind me. My eyes don't work as well as I'd like. Hence these silly things. But, the reality is, this is one place, and this is what bothers me when technology scrambles things. Could be any number of them, Kimberly. I'd lay odds, depending on what their behavior was, I would lay odds that you're actually looking at Mobians. But now bear in mind, like humans, all Mobians are not, they are not all one color. Okay, you got to remember, the Mobians actually evolved on Earth. They colonized Mobius about 50,000 years ago. Probably, and here's the thing, Shadow. Like, Shadow's just asking, have you ever heard of the Anu, the Zantari, or the Montari? I know, or the Minari, sorry. The Zantari and Minari I've heard of. The Anu, I'm curious as to whether they may be one of two races I do know of, just by the name itself. But if you'd be kind enough to send me information on their qualities, I may have them listed under a different name. Like the Anu, I suspect, just by the name itself, maybe one of two races. It may be a short form for the Anunnaki, or it may be one of the sub races of the Ennead. The races that influenced or that made contact with the Egyptians thousands of years ago. Okay. Now, let me just call up that one funny little file that I just put together. We'll pop that over there, and that is not where I need it. Okay, let's minimize that for a second, just so that I can bring up the right one. Told you I was going to put a file together, a spreadsheet together, to just be able to look things up in a hurry. So that is what I went and did. I thought it was a good idea. Now, if we look at there, what do we got? That's just the races in by name at this point. Yeah, how you doing there, Terry? Glad you could join us. But yeah, if you can send me information on what you know about them, I may well have them listed as a different name. Very much like something that I'm doing with my artist. Okay, with the artist that's working on the pictures for the 4 races of the world, is I am giving him, I'm finding the other names out that these people actually call themselves as best I can. So that's coming along nicely. But yeah, right now I'm sitting at, like that 54-page booklet that some of you already have is about to be changed. Okay, it's about to be enhanced. Where it is right now, with the same number of races, is we are now up to 84 pages. Okay. Where are we here? Let's blow that up so I can actually see what it says. Yeah. No, and that's no problem there, Shadow. I understand that all too well. Because there are new races I'm running into on quite a regular basis. Okay. And it's one of those things that's just an ongoing complication. Trying to keep all this together because people don't always recognize, they don't know who they're dealing with, they're just dealing with them. And of course, the fact of the matter is, many of you are going through situations that are absolutely unnerving. Terry, the answer to your question is absolutely what you call leprechauns, okay, which are, the leprechauns are very real, okay. They themselves are referred to as the Atuari, okay, as the Atuari. And they are, it's not that they're always looking for gold. It's that they like shiny things. And gold just happens to be shiny when you polish it. I mean, they'll quite happily take silver or even polished shells on occasion, as long as it's got a neat glint to it. It's the sparkle. They like looking at the way it plays with light. Part of that, and there's a number of reasons for it, but are they real? Absolutely. Now, the one thing they don't do is sit at the bottom of a rainbow with a pot of gold. Okay. Now, I have seen these little monkeys sleep in a bed of gold, and they used to do it more, right? Well, actually, they still have the gold, so. But they would scatter their gold about their room and curl up in it. I personally find gold coins, unlike any coins, not really that comfortable to sleep on, but these guys don't seem to mind too much. Okay. The one thing they don't do that all the fairy tales seem to say is that if you catch a leprechaun, they'll grant you a wish. That part they don't do. But they may not shut up if you try and contain them. Are they real? Absolutely they are. And I don't think, I'll double check, but I was running low on ink, so I don't think I've got them printed off here. Art row. I do not believe I've got these guys printed. What I'm looking for, I've got to get some of these done, but no. But that's okay, I'll get to those. I think what I'm going to do, what I may end up doing is getting a few of them sorted around, but are they real? The answer is yes. But again, they don't show themselves for the exact same reason that the other races don't. Okay, now bear in mind, the consortium deals with offworlders. It does not control the ancient races. Doesn't even have much direct interaction with them. But we do have to look at the reality that when you're talking about the offworlders, okay, that when you do take a look at that, you got to realize that first and foremost, the term reptilians are doing this is the same as looking at mankind and going, humans behave this way. They all look alike and they're all doing the same thing. There are multiple different species of reptilians. But what I can't quite figure out. Oh, not a problem there, Joe. I'm an extremely staunch believer in God. Quite frankly, I'm a staunch believer in both God and Christ. And there are people that will give me flack about it. Okay. But no, absolutely, Joe. You gotta, take a look at it this way. And this is to anybody that believes in God. Okay. If God created everything, which I'm a firm believer he did. Okay. If God created everything, God said right off the bat that he is known by many names on many worlds. Okay. This being said, Earth isn't the only one he built. Okay, which means aliens are a part of what God built, which means believing in them is not a sin. It is not evil. It does not mean you've fallen off the loony wagon here. It means you see something that God intended you to see and went, here's the picture. There's more of you. Not all of my children look alike. Okay. And that's the bottom line of it. God did say, and Christ even said, if you desire to get to know God, learn about all of the children. He wasn't referring to just on Earth. Of course, at the time, getting off Earth might have been a problem. Okay. But we have to realize that if we're going to focus on what's gone wrong, when are we going to get attacked, let's hide under the covers and hope the world doesn't blow up. Bad news doesn't work well. Okay. But absolutely, if anybody wants to ask whether I believe in God, absolutely. Okay. Do I believe I'm absolutely nuts? No. Well, that's not entirely correct, but I have had 3 professional psychiatrists tell me that my mind works absolutely beautifully. It's my temper with dealing with what I consider stupid people that becomes an issue. Now, the thing is, if we don't start looking at the positive side of things, at the positive potentials, instead of, are the offworlders going to wipe us out? Are they going to straighten out our mess? Well, first and foremost, are they going to wipe you out? If they were going to wipe you out, number one, you'd be gone before you even knew you were under attack. Okay, and that's the first thing we got to realize, is this is not a question of whether or not things are going to go sour. How you doing, Lily Pond? Glad you could join us. If we do not start looking at the positive side of things and starting to cooperate and communicate with each other, we are going to have a massive problem. Okay, now, like I said just last week, it is time we start getting excited about the positive aspects of what the future may hold. Okay, of what we can co-create. Not of this issue of when is the world going to end and when is somebody else going to come down here and straighten out our own mess. I keep thinking about it. I'm lousy where it comes to doing dishes personally. So it's sort of a case you put the dishes in the sink and you go, now I'm going to thank God for doing them. And not yet, not once in my lifetime has he come down and done the dishes. And I don't get it. He lives here, he lives in my heart, and yet he won't get up and do my dishes. I don't get it. You'd think he can arrange a maid or something to that effect, but no. But, the reality is, like, I've had negative interactions with offworlders. I've had negative interactions with people. I've had negative interactions with humans. Okay. And there is one topic, there are a couple of topics I will not deal with. And I just, I've had to draw a very solid boundary on it. Okay. I really had to draw a real solid boundary on it. I don't deal with politics, okay? Because 90% of the politics, in my opinion, are absolutely a waste of time, and they're nothing but fear-mongering and greed-based. Which, I don't know about you, but I don't deal well with it. You know, it's the same issue that I run into when people start going, when people start going, oh, all the aliens are bad now. Stephen Hawking's actually made the comment, and this was a man of incredible intellect, actually made the comment at one point, okay, of saying that all aliens are evil. They're all dangerous. Well, no, they're not. No more than every human is a bad human. Okay. I've had lots of interactions with both. And quite frankly, I find most of the humans I've dealt with, and I mean the ones I've dealt with face to face, not the ones I've talked to in here. Okay, I'm talking about the ones I've dealt with face to face or in a professional capacity. Most of them have been blatantly dishonest. Okay, but yeah, good luck there, Lily Pond. Absolutely good luck with that. They don't come out and do it very often. Now, part of that problem, okay, part of the issue of getting names, and this is something I've had to add to Races of the World. Some of the names I put in, some of the names I'm using, most of them are what they call themselves. Okay, some are based on phonetic recreation, and some are just a reference point, which, while I'm going through the editing of Races of the Worlds, I will be making a note that this name is either their name, a phonetic approximation, or just a flat out reference. Like, for instance, the Earth Elementals. Okay, Earth Elemental is not the name of their race. It is a reference to say that's what they are. The Earth Elemental themselves, and this is getting put in the new printing. Okay, the Earth Elementals themselves are actually Corridon. Okay, now that being said, trying to get these people's names, like the Shadow Walkers, their name is not a Shadow Walker, but I am working on that. And like you found there, you found there, Lily Pond, bribing them doesn't work. Bribing works great on humans, doesn't work great on most of the other races. Now, on the other hand, the Tormodon, if you offer them something, they'll take it without even blinking. Maybe where it ends, but they'll take it. Yeah. Lily Pond just goes, I left a bottle of Blackberry Merlot on the pen and paper, but all three items are still there. The answer there, Terry, yes. But if you're going to ask me, do I have his name? No. Okay. You may find the Skittles go someplace, but I will tell you, you got to remember, let me get something for you here regarding the fairies. It won't take me but a minute because it's hanging on the wall. Now, this will give you an idea why you have trouble and why fairies are hard to track down. Okay. Now, bear in mind that what I'm about to show you it's a figure. Okay. But this is life-sized. This is the size of a fairy. And you'll notice they're not exactly a big creature. Now, this is simply an ornament, as it were. Okay, I did not dry up poor little fairy out and hang her up. But, just trying to get my hands to work. This is a life-size figure. That's how big these little guys are. So this might be why you have a little bit of trouble seeing them. Okay, they're not exactly that large, and this would be the size of an adult. The funny thing is, when you start looking at some of these little guys, you gotta remember the other issue. If you're leaving a full bottle of wine for them, number one, how are they supposed to get into it? They're not that big. This would be a problem. Because, well, think about it. Now, this is 1 liter, which is about a quart. Now, picture this. Now, obviously, a bottle of Merlot is going to be bigger than this. But look at the size of this poor little thing. Now, how is she going to possibly get that thing up in the air and go? Okay, what do I got here? Hey, Big J, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, that is just terrible. That really is. I can give you one simple explanation for it. One simple difference there, Big J. And like Big J's asking, can you describe to us what's the difference between a Sprite and a Pepsi? That's the easy part. I like Sprite. I don't like Pepsi. It's just that simple, and that's one of the easiest ones. Oh, okay. My apologies there, Lily Pond. People say there's a little difference between Pepsi and Coke, and I'll tell you, Pepsi is way too sweet for me. Oh, I do hope you got him back. Yeah, Henry's just saying, my dad was fishing in the mountains with Grandpa and his dog, and the dog ended up in the river being swept downstream underneath the logjam. And then when he ripped off his vest to jump in after, he was caught and noticed the dog was already on top of the logjam, being bemused. Yeah, because a water sprite will do that. Okay, periodically they'll do it for humans, but they'll absolutely they will absolutely step up either a water sprite or, as Henry's pointing out, a water elemental when you're dealing with animals, because animals are absolutely dead honest. There is no deception. And that is the key to dealing with the elementals, with Esau's children. If you're dead honest, they will treat you a whole lot better. Of course, the carnivores will still try and kill you, but that's another issue. And this, Henry, is entirely why I prefer, when I'm dealing with people, talking face to face instead of texting, because there's so much information that gets missed. But I'm looking at the way the world is right now and going, we have an opportunity here to turn it around. Now, am I going to turn my computer around and actually make it work properly? Probably not. I've been fighting with them since 1979 and made virtually no headway. So, is this something that we can work with? Is society something that can be saved? The answer is yes. But of course, I'm stuck with that other little question. And it's not for me to call. This is why I'm doing what I can. I run into my bad days. Absolutely. Okay. But is society worth saving? The answer, in my opinion, is yes. Does it need a serious overhaul? Absolutely. But we have to realize that 90% of what is out there, and that's really overstated, but the stuff that gets publicized is so much on the negative side and so much on the fear side, greed side, this sort of thing, that we've got to shift that ratio. If we don't shift the ratio and we continue pushing, feeding the issue of when is the world going to end, well, I'll clear that up for you. In about 15 trillion years, give or take. At least last I heard. Okay, because the world ends when our sun, when Sol goes supernova. Okay, at which point the planet we're on is toast. Thereby, so is mankind. And by the way, if it's consolation, the other side of the sun, which is where Mobius is, will go out of existence at the same time. Okay, this is not a question of is God going to come down and go, oh, you're a special person, we'll take you out. We'll remove you, take you out of harm's way. That isn't going to happen. Okay, I'd love to say it is. Okay, God also, the flip side of that, for those of you that believe in God, God is not going to look at you and go, oh, you're a bad person. You're not doing exactly what I say, so we're just going to do this. Right? God doesn't do that. He gave you free will. He gave you free choice to do what you will. Okay. But he did say, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Not do unto others as you fear they're going to do it and do unto you, but do it first and then split. Okay. The fact of the matter is that we are all on the same planet. And this whole idea of people pushing to colonize another planet, especially one that's occupied, might be overstated. But my outlook on it is this. If you're running a business and the business is faltering, opening a new outlet isn't going to solve your problem. Okay, or changing locations isn't going to solve the backbone of the problem. So what we have to start looking at is why are so many people focusing on the idea that all these abductions are happening for nefarious reasons. Yes, they are happening. And for those of you that are dealing with them, and in all fairness, Joe, this really does go out to you as well. Where are we here? Yeah, Joe goes, yeah, I'm going to pull an all-nighter tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, We Hall of Fame. Oh, well, WWE Hall of Fame class 2023. Oh, neat. Yeah, that's going to be an all-nighter. I actually ended up sleeping. Oh, come to think of it. Thank you so much for reminding me there, Joe. Talk about going sideways. Where are we here? That was 4 to 7, but went out at, let's see, it came back on here at 2, so that would be 10 to 12. Yeah, I've slept a lot today. I went for a walk and wore myself out. That didn't work well. I got to remember to do that and to really pace that side of it. The last 3 days combined, I got 7 hours of sleep. Right? So I guess it's fair that I got 7 hours today. See, okay. Yeah, I misread that, I think, there, Henry. Because I'm just looking back over what you said. Your grandpa thought it was God that saved him. He's saying you think it was an elemental. Well, depends on who you talk to. I mean, either way, the good news is the pup got saved. Because I'll tell you, having drowned once already this lifetime, it is not a fun thing to endure. I'm likely, because I got a couple hours of sleep here this afternoon, the odds are I'll be up for a while. But I did go through, like I said, I've been moving the books over so I can actually work on all of them properly. And that's a job and a half. But, It was funny. I got told by, of all people, my little brother, who I've been having complications with, turned around just today or yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday because it was before the game. He turned around and asked if my finances were stable. And I'm going like, yeah, I've got them under control. They're not good, but and he says, well, whatever you do, he said, are you still writing? I says, yeah. I said, I'm not making money out of it yet, really, but I'm still doing it. And he goes, well, whatever you do, don't stop your writing. Which is really kind of an odd thing. Instead of him pushing for me to find a job and get back to work and what have you. But we'll see how all that pans out. Still working on that side of it. But what I was saying there, Joe, before I got so brutally sidetracked, is when you're dealing with the paranormal encounters, even and maybe especially if nobody believes you. Even especially if nobody believes you, it can be really, really difficult to get things organized, to really stand your ground and go, no, this is what happened. I ran into it myself. I never even noticed it, but my mom cleared it up just shortly before she died. Right? She looks at me, having told me all my life I was nuts. She looked at me right near my father's death and she goes, you know why I believe what you're telling me? I looked at her and I'm thinking to myself, and I didn't say anything. I'm thinking, Mom, you've been telling me I'm nuts for the better portion of my life. I said, so I looked at her and I went, no, I really don't. And she goes, because Keith, no matter how, she says, I've heard all these stories before. But she said, even when Dad and I tried to coerce you to change your story, you refused to alter even one word of it. This is how I know it was real. And in your case, Joe, I know full well you've been going through some absolutely trying times, especially given your background and trying to sort it out. Okay. But rest assured, you are absolutely correct. You are safe in this, at least if I have anything to do with it. You are absolutely safe and not to be judged, especially in this room. And just looking here at Lily Pond, I forgot to address the corkscrew question. I intentionally bought a twist off. That just brings back really bad memories for me. They were funny, but last bottle I gave him had a corkscrew. Apparently the concept escaped him because that's why he stole my box. Guess he got the point across. I mean, let's face it. Many of these people don't deal with them. Quite often about the where were we? We were looking at something up here. There we go. Yeah, Terry was asking about the person with the shadow person with the hat. Yeah, quite often it's funny because what I've seen some of these different races do is they will take an image that provides that air of mystery as pertains to our own movie past, to our own literature. Okay. And they will adopt a form that automatically instills this question of mystery. Well, I know I haven't thrown salt over my shoulder any time lately, and I'd be hard pressed to see the 13th as a bad day. I was born on the 13th. Fortunately, I was born on a Monday the 13th, but then I don't have a problem with Friday either. I look at a lot of the superstitions that are out there and I'm going like, these are all based on unknown situations and frankly, fearmongering. Okay. And this is the biggest complaint I've got with a lot of what I see. Okay, is people are taking ideas and blowing them so far out of proportion, going, oh, they're doing this just to cause a problem. And this is why a couple of topics I don't deal with, and I've had to be absolutely concrete on. I don't deal in politics. Okay. Do I watch politics from the standpoint of voting? Yes. Okay. Because in my opinion, if I don't vote for somebody, I do not have a functional right to go, I think he's doing a bad job, or, he should never have been elected. If I'm not doing my part inside the system to help with it, okay, to counteract it, then where do I get off going, this person's doing a bad job, or I participated in creating the problem that we had, and I won't do it again. But that's why I won't deal with politics on the whole. I'm certainly not going to deal on the idea of who has more money, and if having the money makes them a good or bad person. Not going to go there. Okay. And of course, religion, that's a whole entourage unto itself that could just get me, hung, drawn, quartered, and probably barbecued. But, because much like some of you, now what, pray tell, is the non-hat man? I mean, there's a lot of non-hat men, a lot of people that don't have, that have seen people without a hat. Okay. One day I may go and put my hat on. I mean, I do have a cowboy hat, right? But I'll tell you, did it ever take me a long time to get it? Because the reality of it is, the larger hats in town here are only a XX. Well, when I talk about having a fat head, I actually have to wear a 4X hat to get it over my temples. Anything smaller than that, it won't fit. So yeah, I really do have a fat head or a thick skull, take your pick. But oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that there, Henry. I'm not entirely certain my brain is even fully developed. I have never figured this. And I've been here literally, if we talk about past lives, I've been here literally billions of years. And I still have not figured out the human race entirely. Or maybe I have, and maybe that's where my problem is. But I was going through it. Here's a bizarre question for you, and this is literally to the people that have already got a hold of Races of the Worlds, because I'm in the process. I'm just starting a real overhaul on the information to include. Okay, the reason I say this goes primarily to the people that have already got a copy of the book. What information would you like to see in it that is not already in it? Because I'll tell you, with that sheaf of paper that I've got, the sheaf of notes I've got behind me here, there's a lot of information I can pull in. Now, why, pray tell, would I excuse your sense of humor, Lily Pond? I mean, realistically, if you've got a sense of humor, as long as it is not derogatory or insulting to other people, or abusive to other people. And I know there are people that have a sense of humor like that. Yours is clearly not that way inclined. But, having a sense of humor in this world is very necessary. I just don't cotton to the so-called humor of people pranking each other or people insulting each other. It just doesn't, to me, it isn't funny. Now, I've been told, and my son will listen to something, and I'll look at him blank face, and he'll go, Dad, that was actually a joke. I'm like, oh, they should have made it more clear. But I admit, I'm dense. But from my standpoint, it really boils down to this. Like I was asked one day, just last week, somebody, or maybe it was early this week, I don't know, but somebody suggested we find a way to really focus on the positive sides, on how to deal with the garbage that's out there. Well, I'll tell you, avoiding it will not make it go away. However, not participating in it will certainly assist you. Like these, any of these posts on Facebook, just as an example, that go, these are wardrobe fails that these people don't want you to see. I refuse to even click on the button. Okay. Because if something happens that I wouldn't desire people to see, there's no way I'd want them looking at it. So why should I go and look at that something somebody else has gone through? Okay. Same as when we talk about what governments are up to. Oh, he's doing this for his own reasons. Every human, every corporeal in existence in the third dimension does things for their own purpose. Okay. Every single one of you, when you go to do something, you have your own reality, your own reasons for doing things. Adam's just written in here, I hate celebrity clickbait. I don't even consider most of those people famous. Sad to say, Adam, I'm not even entirely certain what celebrity clickbait is. I understand what celebrity is. But like I said, I'm obtuse where it comes to the modern world. And part of that is quite intentional. I, years ago, started to pull away from people. As it turns out, when I was looking at the channel autobiography, I literally started becoming reclusive in elementary school. Okay, and it never improved any. Matter of fact, it's gotten a whole lot worse in the last little while. But, the fact of the matter is, somebody who has become a household name because of what they're doing, that's great. Like, for instance, and this man's already passed away. If you take a look at Colonel Sanders, the guy that made Kentucky Fried Chicken, what became KFC, if you desire to know anything about chicken and about marketing for chicken, I'd absolutely suggest you go and talk to him. But would I take his word on something about the medical field? Not a snowball's prayer. The man did not have a medical background as far as I'm aware. Okay, this is why you talk to people that you have successfully accomplished something. Okay, now, I'm looking at the mess I've got. Okay, put you up there out of the way for a minute. I do go through my issues of going, is there a reason to continue doing the post? Because every time I turn around, when I venture outside of this chat room, is there any reason to keep doing the stream? Because when I come outside of this chat room and I look in others, many of them are so focused on when the world is going to end or how aliens are controlling everything. Okay. And it is just so much of a shovelful. I look at people half the time and go, do you want a shovel, or is a backhoe more appropriate? Because, the reality is there are all sorts of ways of taking over a world. And doing it by subterfuge has got to be one of the most ineffective, if you've got the power to do it otherwise. And let's face it, humans are not even in the same ballpark, okay, as far as capacity goes. This does not mean humans are a weak race, nor does it mean you guys don't have potential. It means that most people are so caught up in the fear and greed side of things that you're forgetting about your creative capacity. Okay, and this is what we have to look at. Well, what I feel it would be wise to look at. Oh, we did start that up and we got our editing. What is that? Oh, didn't get to that. But we can do that while we're sorting this out. Saw something move there. Oh, Adam is just saying clickbait is those posts you see online. Top 10 celebrity fails. Stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, pictures and things like that I just won't bother with. Now, there are some bloopers that have happened during filming that are great to watch, especially when you start realizing what happened with them. Like, for instance, in Indiana Jones, in the original one, The Raiders of the Lost Ark, when he's on the bridge and Indiana all of a sudden turns around and shoots the big guy with the swords. Okay, that scene was never in there. Okay, it wasn't written to go that way. Problem was that Harrison Ford forgot his lines and just shrugged his shoulder, pulled the gun out, and pulled the trigger. The other actor was quick to pick up on it and just fell down. Well, net result, they decided that was a great way to cut that scene loose. So they did. But, bloopers in filming are one thing. Fails in real life that are embarrassing for the person, especially when they turn around and go, oh, these people would never want you seeing this. Well, then why? Like, if you follow karmic law, okay, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Okay, why would you possibly post that? Well, I can't speak to that one, Henry. Maybe that was part of the problem, but my understanding was it was whatever caused it, he forgot his lines. Net result, we have the film as it is today. And there was another one in the original Star Trek that I remember where Bones and Spock are leaning real close together in a conversation. And all of a sudden, Spock leaned over and kissed Bones on the end of the nose. Right. Just completely shot the scene to pieces. They didn't leave that in, but it was a blooper. But, things like that are done with nobody getting hurt per se. Well, aside from maybe the pocketbook of the film director. Right. But when we are looking at what you're doing, what you're looking at, because remember, every time you look at these posts, every time you read these in the newspaper, you're actually giving credence and giving recognition to the people that are doing these things that are karmically blatantly wrong. Okay. And this again is why I look at it when people go, I love people that go out on a, and I know this will get me in trouble, but what the heck? People go out looking for Bigfoot. That's not a problem. Okay. It really isn't. But I do find it fascinating that people would call it a Bigfoot hunt. Because I don't know about you, but if I get word that somebody's hunting for me, the last thing I'm going to do is show up. I'm pretty certain that's an indicator that you should go into hiding a little bit more effectively. But, and the reason I started things this way today was, like I said, I got thinking, I'm missing something completely obvious because so many people talk about how bad things are getting and how the off-worlders are controlling everything. They were blaming the elite. Now they're blaming off-worlders. I'm not sure. I find it fascinating. I look at what's going on in my life and go, I'm at least 50% of any communication. Okay. I'm the cause of my issues. This doesn't mean, and like you, Joe, you go through all kinds you've gone through all kinds of abuse and annoyances. Okay. And that doesn't mean it's your fault. It's just what you've gone through. So I'm looking at this going, what am I missing? Like, am I really that far outside the loop? Which, frankly, wouldn't surprise me. But this is why I said I'm looking at this going, where'd my book go? Book is right here. Okay. I'm looking at this, and I know there's information that's got to be added in. What I don't know is how much. Okay. Because there is too much to put in one book. Okay. With the information I've got, I could write volumes and will eventually. But I did decide that the races of the world, those volumes, and I think, and let me know what you think of this, guys. I'm thinking of changing the name of Races of the Worlds to Races of the Worlds Volume 1. But I'm sort of in a quandary whether or not I should. Okay. I'm thinking that what is more effective is to just add an insert into it, right, that simply says it is one of many. Like there are more volumes coming, which is more likely the route I'll end up going, because then I don't have to get a different ISBN number for it. But I'm looking at this world going, we have to find a way to really work together, to really change things up, and actually make the effort to turn this into a more effective world where we can all get along, where who you call God is not as important as whether you treat people decently. Oops. Oh, you got a hot break, yeah. Last thing you want to do, I mean, I'm no mechanic, but first rule of thumb from my end is if your brake is hot, this is probably a sign that it's not a good one. We had a semi in town here, Adam, coming down a long hill, and he left it. He had the brake on too much. He literally lit the brakes on fire. So yeah, absolutely. You park wherever it's safe, obviously. And I'm guessing there's enough pullouts between Calgary and where the heck are you heading? Forgot where you were heading. But I know on the roads up there are places to pull over, like safe places. But no, I just did a number count. Let me just double check that. Yeah. Between Races of the World Volume 1 and Volume 2, I've got 107 different races. Now, from my knowledge, from my rough estimation, that's 107 out of 2,500. Okay, we're not even at the 1% mark yet. Okay, no, that's not entirely correct. Where'd my brain box go? Brain isn't working, apparently, numerically speaking. So, if we go 107 divided by 2,500, yeah, we're not quite at 0.5%. Okay. That doesn't make sense. Well, I'm saying, because if you think about it, 1% of 2,500 would only be 25. So that's why, idiot. I'm reading my calculator wrong. I'm sitting at just over 4% of the of the existing races that I'm aware of. So this is why I say I'm looking at. You look at that as I carry on doing these additions. Okay, that means that if I'm putting 50 in a roughly 50 or 60 in a book. Okay, what do we got here? If we go cancel that, and we go 60 divided by 2,500. Nope, that's wrong. 2,500 divided by 60 means I'll end up with 41 volumes. Now, somehow I don't think I'm going to get that far. Oh, there you go. Yeah, at least you're parked in a safe place there, Adam. You know, I'm guessing this means you've actually got a sleeper cab. Speaking of which, I've got to get in. I've got to get on to. I've got to get onto eBay and go looking for the stuff I need. But you know, the number of people. It's amazing the number of people I talk to that have literally said, you know, I deal with this sort of thing in the paranormal all the time. And I mean, it becomes an obvious example when we take a look at the TV shows. You know, we're going ghost hunting. And the people that go ghost hunting now, I don't know technology, okay? You guys that are involved in it are so much more adept at identifying what works and what doesn't, technologically speaking. But these people are claiming, oh, let's go in and explore this place, and we're going to see what's going on in this house that is supposedly haunted. And so often it's a whole pile of theatrics, and then the people run out of the building screaming. Right now, I don't know about you, but if you're actually going on a research trip to explore a paranormal or a ghostly encounter, you might want more of a backbone that the moment you hear a strange sound, you don't go screaming out of the room. Maybe great for ratings, but it's useless for the information you're portraying and that you're saying is there. Now, am I perfect? Absolutely not. I am absolutely going to tick somebody off. And I remember somebody in this room came to the conclusion that if I'm not upsetting somebody, I'm not doing something right. You know, now I would love to get along with everybody. Unfortunately, that is not a functionally realistic approach. Okay. You know, it really isn't. Let me open up that other little file. If we minimize that so I can see it. That's the compendium there. That's raw research. Take that. Are we going to open? Yes. So take a look at my compendium file, and where that's live stream. There we are. Okay. See, I take a look at the live stream, and right now at the live stream, I'm taking a look at my file for the compendium. Right. What did I just see here? Hey Susie, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day's been going well. Yeah, I'm looking at my file and my Excel spreadsheet for the compendium. And in the Yldrbac Chronicles, I've got, roughly speaking, let me just double check and make sure that's the right answer. Yep. I've got, roughly speaking, 30% of the entire saga written. Where are we? There. You know, the thing is, a lot of the information, when I say everything is connected, okay, a lot of the questions people have asked in here, fascinatingly enough, at least in my opinion, I am answering. So a lot of those questions actually get covered in the Chronicles as well. This does not mean you gotta wait for them to come out to get the answer. Okay, one thing that I heard somebody the other day, and I'm thinking, okay, you know, when we deal with this thing called soulmates, okay, I heard somebody the other day that claimed to be a specialist in it. They will teach people how to recognize their soulmate. Okay, because according to them, everybody has multiple soulmates. Well, I'm not sure, but to me, that just doesn't add up. A soulmate, as near as I've ever found, is two souls that are a pair. It's kind of like looking at a pair of shoes. Okay, you only have one pair. Like you may have more pairs of shoes than one. And we could make a joke about the number of women that seem to need a pair of shoes for every day of the week. But at least they don't go for every one of the month. Myself, I've got one pair of shoes. Okay. But then I'm also very much a minimalist in a lot of ways. I figure I've got something that works. Why bother getting something else? But, the reality is this person claimed to be an expert in soulmates. And she was quite willing for a fee to help you find your soulmate. Okay. No amount of money in the world is going to draw your soulmate to you. It won't even identify your soulmate because your soulmate may not be on this planet and they're not drawn by money anyway. Okay. A soulmate is a connection that is felt here. And it's not one that usually makes a lot of practical sense. Okay. But this is where I run into a snag. And I've been in conversations where I've looked at it and gone, can't deal with that anymore. Okay. And it happens to me regularly when I try dealing with really, really staunch believers in Christianity, in the Bible. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I've got multiple different religions in written form. Okay. But I run into a problem right off the bat. They start trying to talk me into going to their church. And I'm like, okay, let me ask you this. And I know your response to this one, Joe. So this is really not about you at all. Okay. But people will turn around and go, I'll ask them, well, first of all, in your belief, in your belief structure, did God create everything? And 90% of them or better will go, absolutely yes. Now look at them and go, great. Did God create evil? Oh, absolutely not. God would never create evil. Right there, I look at them and go, we're done. Because that is an impasse that I just cannot work my mind around. I've talked to God directly. And call me nuts if you'd like to. I mean, Lord knows I've been called a lot of other things. Some of them are actually repeatable in polite company. But we've got to start looking at what, absolutely free will, freedom of speech, freedom of belief, absolutely. But what people seem to be failing to understand at this point is the fact that you have the freedom of your belief. They've got theirs as well. Now, do you have to put boundaries in place, or is it wise to? Certainly, I've run into more snags with my life than I care to count by not doing so. I find it fascinating that people will turn around and go, God created everything except evil. Well, if God didn't create evil, then where'd it come from? And for that matter, why is it here in the first place? Except without evil, you cannot identify what's good. And rest assured, I can take this right back to a personal point. I could never tell if food was good because I had no taste buds growing up. So it was like, well, it's cardboard and it's a different color, it's a different shade of gray cardboard. Yeah, that's good. The funny part about it there, Lily Pond, is yes, we are here to experience the polarity, but it's actually a trilarity. Well, I'll call it, because I don't know the better word for it, the trilarity. The positive, the negative, and the neutral. Okay, because there is stuff that is just there. It's not good, bad. It's got no intention. Like, for instance, The weather doesn't rain on people specifically. And in case those of you that remember your past lives forgot, killing your firstborn son never had a functional impact on the weather once. Okay. I mean, if that were the case, can you picture the chaos that would be happening in today's world if the death of a firstborn son were going to create weather changes? Can you picture the chaos we'd be going through? Okay. And, there's so many people I talk to that go, well, I need more money to be happy. No, you don't. And the reason I say that is certainly it takes away a lot of the stress. But take a look at the videos that are available that show countries and communities that have virtually no money. Okay. And they are some of the happiest people you see, at least from my standpoint. The answer to your question, Henry, is yes. Okay. Henry just asked, do people still actually worship the devil with the sacrifices and the blood parties and whatever else? As of, I can confirm it was a definitive yes, as of about 10 years ago when I had a well-placed member of the Church of Satan on a radio show with me. Okay. Do they still exist? The answer is yes. The reality of it is it's still illegal to murder people, even under the auspices of it being your religious right. Okay. That doesn't seem to have changed, so they certainly keep it hidden. But yeah, there are people that twisted. YJ, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And by the way, I've been putting some information together. I've been working on the enhancement to races of the worlds and to the various different ships and what have you I've been working with, like identifying who they are, as it were. Yeah, it's a terrible thing. I don't have a glass of water here right now. So I got my bottle of Coke and I got my cup of coffee. This works out well. Two very important things. You have warm caffeine and you have cold caffeine. I think this is a great addition. I don't know if it's good for my health, but according to my doctor, I'm doing fine. Of course, she can't figure out how come I ended up taking diabetes and going, I don't have a use for it, so it's gone. My health is not perfect by any functional stretch. Okay. But am I planning on dying anytime soon? No. Have I been having trouble figuring out whether to continue interacting with people at all, given the amount of betrayal and the amount of stupidity I've been witnessing, especially recently? Yeah, I've definitely been having that fight. Okay. And, the thing is, like I said, we've got to get to, I'd love to see this stream get to the point where we have lots and lots of people that when you get out and when you leave the stream, after just a couple hours, you're feeling more like you've got some semblance of a positive control, or at least a positive influence over where your life is heading, over where the project you're working on is heading for. Okay. Because I will tell you, we all have the capacity to make that happen. Yeah, no doubt there, YJ. I'm no trucker. I mean, I've sat in a couple of trucks, but for me, it's a massive problem getting up into them. It always has been. Although getting out of a semi is easy. I just step out, fall down, I hit the ground, I get back up, I'm good. What have we got here? Oh, okay, Lily Pond. You take care. Thanks so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. What do we got? That would be interesting. Yeah, yeah, you never, I mean, unless you can hold your breath for a very long time. Myself, I get to about 20, maybe 30 seconds, I have troubles. But then my lungs have this stupid thing about going, oh, we're not going to work right now. It's great. You're sitting there and all of a sudden your lungs shut down. But then I've got three organs in my body that shut down spontaneously: my right knee, my heart, or my lungs. Okay. And I mean, some of you guys saw my right knee give out when I stepped up on a stool. Bad idea. Really, really bad idea. Okay. But of the three organs, having my knee buckle is usually the safest one. Yeah, I don't know whether I've got COPD. I do know I never smoked a day in my life, at least not cigarettes. Spent a lot of time high, but you take care, Kimberly. Thanks again for joining us. From my standpoint, oh, nice, Adam. Glad to hear it. Hate when that happens. Spike in my ankle. Yeah, that's always nice. So that'll be a while anyway, but at least you're not going to be left stranded. You know, but no, I've been really looking at this situation, going, I was debating it again the other day. It's like I keep looking at the world. What do we got here? YJ just going, hey Keith, my grandmother is dying, and she sleeps 21 hours a day right now, and has Alzheimer's to the point she can't remember anyone at times. Do you have anyone for any advice for contacting her in the astral? YJ, the easiest way to do that, and you can do it, you don't actually have to, obviously, at least I think it's obvious, you don't have to verbally talk to her. But I will tell you, if you sit in a room and you just sit there, even while she's sleeping, okay, and you reach out and you ask her questions that can be answered in a yes or no fashion. Okay, you sit quietly in the room, and you don't even have to ask them out loud, or you can, it's your call which one, because neither one is better than the other. But ask her questions ask her questions, or talk to her in terms that can be responded to in a yes or no fashion. Now, when I say talk to her, tell her what you're going through, tell her what you're feeling, and be honest, because she's going to know whether you're lying. The fact that her mental mind, that her physical brain is shutting down, in some ways can be considered a blessing. Okay, by the way, way ahead of time, but right now we'll settle with my sympathies regarding the state of your grandmother. Okay, as most people realize, as you get older, dying is part of the package. Okay, but when you're sitting there, tell her what you're going through, and you can, after you relay a story of what you've told her about, sit quietly and literally ask her if she understands what you just said. Okay, where the contact comes in is if you're sitting there and you feel either a tingling across the back of your neck or down your forearms. These are the two most common areas that you'll feel it. The stronger the tingling sensation, much like your foot waking up after it's been asleep, the more positive of a yes it is. If you don't feel anything, the answer is no. Okay. But rest assured, she can absolutely hear you. Even though her brain is not working to the point that she can automatically respond to you in a functional fashion. Okay. She is hearing you, and she does know you're in the room. Okay. Problem is, she's got no way of telling you. Hopefully, this makes sense. I am glad that made sense there, Jim YJ. I mean, it's kind of weird, but the reality from my standpoint is this: everything can be understood. It's just finding a way to actually articulate it so it does that work well. To articulate, because that was really good or English. Yeah, not. But the trick is to find a way that makes sense to the individual. And that particular comment may not make sense to other people. Okay. And by the way, the other thing there that will make both of you feel a whole lot better is when you're sitting in a room with her, even while she's sleeping. Okay. If you hold on to her hand, she will recognize it. Now, that's the other thing you can do, even with Alzheimer's. Okay. You put your hand in her hand, right? And you ask her if she can feel you. And just tell her, just go squeeze gently if you can hear me. Okay. That aspect, that's an autonomic system. That aspect will, in most cases, enable her to actually respond directly to you in real time. But again, you've got to ask questions. You've got to phrase it in such a way that it can be a yes or a no. Okay. And then you go squeeze once for no and twice for yes. Most people, even in a coma, will actually respond to this particular technique, because you're talking about a direct neural net interface. And much as it sounds really hokey pokey, the only person that ever did the hokey pokey, they're dead now. Somebody went and buried them, and of course it all went great until they put his right foot in, and then all helps. But no, the reality of it there, YJ, is as long as she is still breathing, she can still hear you. Okay. But I certainly do feel for you. I lost both my parents a few years back. Okay, and this one, my grandparents have been, well, my grandmother. What do we got? YJ's going, I actually saw a person in a coma respond with sign language to what people were saying to her. Absolutely, and here's why. Linguistics, as in speaking, is done with the logic side of the brain. But when Alzheimer's kicks in, the logic side gets shut down. The creative side is what utilizes sign language, physical interaction. Okay. These are just other aspects of the brain that can be reached, that even most of the modern psychological doctors are now overlooking. This is what I mean. We have been uneducated. Okay. Society has been taught to forget the basics. But the reality is, yes, I end up seeing them dead all the time. I remember one day it was funny. And talk about being out in left field. Years before I recognized I suffered from PTSD in the hospitals, I was in seeing my brother, right? Because he spent a lot of his time in the hospital. And I was sitting there, I'm in the hospital, and this young lass, and understand this young lass was dead. And I know she was dead because, well, she was completely non-corporeal. And I looked at her, and I'm like, and of course, because of the fact that I can communicate with them, I looked at this young lass, and I went, "You're looking lost." And she goes, "Well, nobody's listening to me in my room, and I don't want to. They're saying I'm dead, and I don't want to be dead." I said, "Well, let's go for a walk." So I walked back, and she led me to where her room was. And she told me where her room was, but she couldn't read the numbers anymore. So I went wandering down the hall, found myself at her room. I said, "There you go. Just climb back in. You'll be fine." Right? And it was just hilarious from my standpoint. Doctors nearly had a coronary. Because all of a sudden, this woman that they were about to tag, well, this young girl that they were about to tag as dead, all of a sudden pops her eyes open, sits up. And I mean, it was just absolutely funny. From my end, they nearly had a coronary, but hey, what the heck? The dead are not, the dead and the dying are not necessarily quite as far gone as you might think. Which is why if you go back to the if you go to the graveyards in England, they used to have, and some of the older graves have, a little bell hanging on them with a rope running all the way down into the coffin. Okay, or a hole where the rope used to be. Okay, this is because people were buried back then while they were still alive, and then they'd wake up. I'll tell you, that's a lousy way to die. Okay, in all fairness, I haven't tried that one before, and not looking forward to it. Thanks very much. But I've been looking at this. I've got all these books I'm in the process of writing, not making any functional money at it, but then the people that have told me that they knew how to actually market properly, they know how to tell you they know how to market, and they know how to take your money. But they don't know how, or they just don't do it. Okay, so am I a little behind the eight ball from that standpoint? You bet. But I've been really contemplating the issue of taking the different races and starting to post information about the various races once I've got the pictures available. Okay, and rest assured, the pictures that I've got, okay, from my standpoint, I've already got the clearance. They're mine. Okay, so I don't have to worry about that side of it. But I've been debating whether or not that might be an idea as well, is to pick a race, and just on the social media, go, here's a picture of it, and here's some of the basics, right? Without going into all the detail. But your input would be really appreciated, guys. YJ, you've just got, that's an amazing story. My mom had similar experiences from working in the hospital. She once said a patient she got to know sitting in a chair and asked her if she needed help back into bed. Opened the door to the room, and the doctor was in there and just declared her dead. And had just declared her dead. Yeah. And unfortunately, I was declared dead. Heck, I was dead long enough to ship me to the morgue. I just didn't agree with them, so I left. Tell you, that caused a shock. At least for the doctors. I think it caused a bigger shock for the mortician, though. He's the one that passed out when I got out of bed. The funny thing with morticians is they're taught to handle hiccups, burps, twitches, an arm moving. They are even taught to deal with the idea of a corpse sitting up. What they aren't taught to deal with, because it doesn't happen very often, is a corpse swinging their own legs out of bed and getting up and walking off. They're just not trained to handle that. Of course, realistically, how are you going to train somebody to handle that? But I'm looking at the world right now and going, we've got to find a way to redirect our energy to a more positive outlook. And the trick to doing that is every time if you're out there and you come across something that's negative things happen. Absolutely they do. But negative things happen. So we have to, balance that out. Well, actually overbalance it. If you see a negative post, go and read a couple of ones that are positive. Okay. Because that will help bring the energy back. This is just one of those things that we've got to look at. It's a question of choosing whether or not we're going to live a life based on fear, based on deprivation, or are you going to live a life based on how do I get my life back in my control? How do I correct the path things are on? And I mean, that's just the reality of it. what I'm not entirely certain of is what area people are really looking at, because the thing, people are really interested in, because the two big areas that I won't deal with is I'm not going to start playing video games and go, oh, watch me play this video game. Not going to happen. And yet there are thousands of people that will sit there and watch other people play a video game. Okay. I'm also not going to sit here and debate whether the world's going to end. I'll tell you right now, the debate's over. It's going to end. Sooner or later, it will come to a close. But frankly, I'm pretty certain we're all going to be gone by then, at least in this form. That's just the reality of it. But, when we look at this world, okay, and I keep looking at it going, I do my best to, myself, I do my best to keep on the positive side of what I'm looking at. Unfortunately, I find it very difficult to find a positive side in the way that people are treating each other. Okay, I can't even look at it and go, the positive side is they're not doing it to me. Yeah, I'm just reading what you said there, YJ. YJ's written in, sometimes I think we will interpret something as negative because of fear or guilt or how we think people want us to be. But with a different outlook, we would see it as a positive. And this is exactly the reality behind it. Now, I look at things, and there are certain things I find it very difficult to find a positive way to look at. Like the people that are striving to get me to sign over power of attorney to my finances. I find it very difficult to find anything positive in that. Okay, unless we take a look at it and go, well, they're aiming at that has initiated my really pushing the idea of making absolute certain that I'm on top of the game. Which is a little hard to do when you think about it. I already know where my money is to the penny. I don't know how much further on top of the game I could be. But, I was expecting, in all fairness, I was really expecting a drop in numbers in today, because the last couple of days it's just been a shambles. And the one thing I have seen is that continuity does make things a little bit more stable. Now that said, what are we looking at here? Tomorrow is the 1st, so I haven't got anything. Yeah, tomorrow's April Fool's Day. Have no idea why. No real interest into why. Okay. But I'm thinking, there's a couple of venues I can go down. Okay. And this is just literally what I'm considering at this point. Whether to go through and really take a look at some of what I've written. Okay. Or the hidden information I haven't released, as it were. Okay. Oh, that's okay, Joe. Not a problem there at all. Yeah, I get a kick out of it. YJ is going, I signed power of attorney over to my youngest daughter because I have unequivocally put my trust in her. And technically, I told the kids that everything, mouse is in the way, everything I own is already theirs. Well, yeah. And from my standpoint, I'm very much the same way. Had it been my son that was pushing for it, I may well have done something that way. But this wasn't my son. And a longtime friend of mine stepped in and went, okay, let's bypass that problem. Fortunately, the lawyer I went and talked to was very upfront about what it actually meant, which was so much better than the people that were trying to push it. Needless to say, no, I haven't signed power of attorney over. Okay, and rest assured, until I feel my mind is really behind the 8 ball. Okay. And yeah, I can actually look at it and go, do I know what I'm up to? Yeah, pretty much. But I am seriously looking into a will now. Because I know with the fiasco that my brother's going through, having a will in place will make it easier for the kids. But rest assured, I'm not making them the executors. I am firmly against, in my own personal outlook, in making a sibling or a child, a member of the bloodline, an executor or executrix of the will, because they've already got enough on their hands as far as striving to understand it, striving to deal with the mourning. Okay, and there will theoretically be mourning. In my case, they may be throwing a party, not entirely certain which. I know for me, I figure I get heads up on when I'm dying. I'm having a wake a week before I die. The way I see it is it's going to come out of my estate anyway, so I might just as well actually enjoy the party. You take care there, Adam. Have a safe trip home, eh? Oh, wow. Well, at least you've already got a tech on the way, so you guys will be fine. Let us know tomorrow how things went, if you'd be so kind there, Adam. Hopefully you don't get stuck out there for too long. That actually is not a bad thought there at all, there, YJ. Actually, that's a brilliant thought. Yeah, a guy, I know the lawyer I'm going to deal with. The guy was honest with me right from the get-go. He flat out told me, "Look, I don't know what your brother was trying to tell you, but this is the way this works." Right? I mean, great, no problem. But no, getting the power of I've got to go talk to him about my will anyway. So getting him to drop the paperwork without a signature is not that one's a good idea, and that one I'll put to use. Sadly, do I trust people a whole lot in my world? No. But what I do trust is that people on this planet, is this society worth turning around? The answer is yes. Are the massive majority of people in this world decent people? Mr. L, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Are the majority of people in this world decent people? The answer is yeah, they are. And I'm willing to go as far as to say 95% of people are decent individuals. Okay. What's happened is we are being misguided and misled and frankly miseducated on what we are capable of doing, what we are capable of understanding, and what we are capable of co-creating. I will tell you, you desire a better world. We start with your world. We start with the world around you. That's where it begins. Okay. And this is why I spent all day today going through. I moved, like I said, I moved 12, 13, 15 files up into where they needed to be. Raven, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Just looking at this, YJ. You've got here, I believe that every person is a decent person. All of them. It's just that some people are leveraged and put in a corner and see no way out. That one I will agree with. Mr. L, you got to take a page out of Pecos Bill. Out of Pecos Bill's thought line. And just use that tornado, grab the lasso and grab the thing. See if you can direct it. Fighting bad weather. It's a lot of tornadoes in the south. I forget whereabouts you are. Are you down in Tornado Alley there, Mr. L? Yeah, I can understand. I understand. I used to have power outages. Now I'm in the dark all the time. But the reality is, and this whole thing about the weather going sour there, Raven, brings to mind something I said earlier tonight. Centuries ago, it was well believed that killing your firstborn son would change the weather. And, I never saw it work then, and I doubt very much it'll help now. But, I mean, yeah, the weather is a little bit inclement. Absolutely. That's probably the understatement of the decade. Have I lived through a tornado myself? Yep. Through a tornado, through a torrential downpour. Trying to think if I've actually lived through a landslide or earthquake. No, but I've lived through house fires. Most I think, yeah. Yeah, that's a little windy. Yeah, I was looking at the hailstorms the other day in Australia, and the guy, whoever took the picture, they took a pool ball and set it down on the table and put all these hailstones around it. The hailstones were bigger than the pool ball. I'm looking at this going, this is not hail. This is somebody getting really ticked upstairs and dropping things. But weather itself can be an absolute royal pain in the neck. Especially if you're not prepared for it. Yeah. That was my thought. I'm looking at this. I'm thinking, if we get hailstones up here that are the size of my pinky nail, they're huge. One the size of a pool ball. I mean, picture that. Where is it? There it is. Picture that. This isn't exactly a pool ball, but it's the right size. Can you picture a hailstone like that falling from the high atmosphere and dropping on your head? You're not going to survive this. Hey Terry, I understand the issue about certain shows have to take place. Like yesterday, and it's not very often that I will put gaming aside. But my son asked me to take him to John Wick 4 last night. If you like the John Wick series, definitely well worth going and seeing. Okay. So we went and saw that. All the three of us did. Our best friend, well, second best, but anyway, the family friend, the one that we usually game with, my son and myself went to John Wick 4, and then came home, and after the game, after the show, ouch, we gamed until 11:30 and 11:30 last night. There are certain things you just have to deal with. Where are we? Terry's going, Keith, are the aliens going to try and fool everyone tomorrow? I like the way I wouldn't hold my breath on it. Depends on your definition of fooling. They apparently have fooled most of the planet because so many of them, so many of the offer of people look at the aliens and go, "Oh, you're going to kill us all," and so they've got everybody convinced they're going to kill them somehow, and yet they've got no functional interest in it. Second one was a bit bizarre. I forgot about the third one, and now the fourth. But the fourth one, it is. But the fourth one, and I'm not going to tell you a thing about it. If you haven't seen it, if you like the other ones, go and watch it. They did a good job on it, in my opinion. Okay, and it's one of those rare franchises where they actually it followed a plot line through all four of the episodes. All four of the movies followed when you lock them together, they all run one into the other. And it worked out really nicely the way they did it. This is one of the challenges I've got with the Yldrbac Chronicles, is making sure it stays locked together properly. But no, the last couple of days, I'm sitting here quite seriously, and this is going full circle here. I'm sitting here going, am I actually making an impact that is actually helping people? Because, the amount of turmoil I'm seeing in the world right now is just absolutely, and, it's absolutely bizarre. And people seem to be focusing more on the negative and not on, and I mean across the board. Like I've popped in, like I said earlier, I popped in to various different podcasts and various different live streams. And most of the so-called professionals are saying the same thing. The aliens they're controlling everything. And we're living this way because the aliens are making it happen. Okay, and then you got the other side where God's doing it all. No, God didn't do it because God wouldn't do anything evil. Right? And I'm sitting here going, billions of people are living and listening to this. And, I'm sitting here, it's kind of like screaming into the wind because I have never run into one. I've run into a couple of races that certainly they find benefits to Earth, not the least of which is the flavor of humans. Personally, not overly impressed, but I don't worry about it too much. That in and of itself, YJ, is pretty much the only the functional reason for continuing. Because, it's hard on occasion because I look at the rest of at the way this world is going, and I'm going, I'm not seeing a whole lot of change. But then, I think back 2,000 years ago, he didn't see a lot of change either. I mean, not in his lifetime. It was way after. But as long as I can help somebody, then it's worth putting the effort into it. Because, it's rough on occasion. And, am I always in an upbeat mood? No, there are days when I come on here and I'm absolutely beside myself on the other side of it. I just happen to have an ability to look at the positive, the negative, and the neutral all at the same time, which can get confusing. But do I have off days? You bet. And unfortunately, that can happen around people that are physically around me. Pretty good thing I'm a recluse, although my son does have to deal with it on occasion. But no, that said, I will certainly keep doing things as long as I can. However, if somebody's going to be kind enough to tell me, oh, the world's going to end tomorrow, can you give me a little more warning than just a week like I got the last time? Somebody came to me, right, and well, not the last time, and it's happened several times since. But I remember specifically at the end of 2012, or at the end of 1999, rather, somebody came up to me and goes, oh, dude, you don't seem worried. Didn't you realize the world's ending on December 31st? I'm like, why do I never get forewarning on these things? Oh yeah. It really does there, Joe. I've been reclusive now, really seriously reclusive since 2010-ish, where I really pulled away a lot. Yeah, and I appreciate that, YJ. I really do. The reality is, people on the whole, much of what people are doing is because they've been taught to do it effectively, ineffectively. Okay. And I cannot blame the kids, so to speak, because their parent, or I can't blame the parents rather, because the parents were taught the same way. They're only, people on the whole are doing what they've been taught. Now, if I can figure out a way to make things stick, okay. And where are we here? I should have it listed. Tomorrow, not 31st. Yeah. on Sunday, I will be dealing with chapter 4 of the Birth of the Wolf Pack. Okay. That's where it's going in. And then I've still got, like I said, I've got a staggering amount that I'm dealing with. Okay. And what I might do, and tell me what you think, guys. And I realize there's only half a dozen of you in the chat room right now. Right now, I'm dealing with, on Sunday, we'll be dealing with chapter 4 here. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of the book. That's why I've got it in print. Yeah, YJ goes, hermit cards for everyone. So that'll be chapter 4. Then, and I'm not going to read the prologue out of this one, which is a sequel, because it literally is taken straight out of the end of chapter of the Birth of the Wolf Pack. But that'll take me another month or so. Well, hands aren't working. That'll take me a month or so to get through the first 4 chapters of the Birth of the Return of the End of an Epoch. After that, I've got a couple of options. What do we got here? I will get to that in just 10 seconds here, Raven. I'm just looking at this. Yeah, isn't that the truth there, YJ? How the fool is actually the hermit in the beginning of his life. Okay, because what it boils down to is walking along with his head in the clouds, not knowing what he's up to, and then he realizes where he is and goes, I've had enough, I'm just going back here. And then down the road, after you reach that hermetic standpoint, then you're able to reach out and start to talk to people. Okay, I still don't talk to people well face to face. Although, like I said, if you're ever down in this area and you decide to look me up, it's not that hard to track me down. It's not like I hide. But here's a question for you to think about. Okay, I'm going to be, what do we got here? Okay, now, one of the things regarding that there, Raven, okay, Raven's asked, what can a person do to counter the effects of solar flares? A massive one is hitting us today from Wednesday. They affect me terribly. My body feels like a lead balloon. Best thing in the world that I can think that I know of that works like an absolute charm. Okay. And this is directly, I'm going to go into it in detail anyway, but you take your hand, right or left, it doesn't matter which, either one of your hands, put them palm down on something that is solid, something that is heavy, and usually sits on the floor. Okay. This can be either the floor itself or the ground itself, a wall, a heavy chair like a recliner, a heavy table that is not easy to move. Yeah. Vodka. No, Raven, that really doesn't help. I mean, it'll help you forget about it, or at least, not deal with it. At least until you wake up with a hangover. But you take your hand, put it down on something solid, and visualize the excess energy coming out of your hand, much like water out of a faucet. Okay? Because what a solar flare does is it amplifies the interaction of the neural net, meaning you're picking up way too much energy. Okay, so the reason you're feeling weighed down, okay, is because you're absorbing so much of the energy that is out there that it's literally making you heavier. So by putting your hand on something and letting that energy flow out, now if you can do it, which is the way I do it, you can actually bleed it off through your feet, okay, or just expel it. But The easiest way to visualize it is put your hand on something solid and just visualize that excess energy coming out of your hand, much like water out of a faucet. Okay, this will help immensely. You will end up, I have no doubt it will. Works for me all the time. Okay. But what it may do, you may feel lighter, you may feel a little lightheaded and potentially giddy as you get rid of the stuff, of the negative. Okay, which is not a bad thing when you think about it. Well, that's just it, Raven. You know, if you feel like you're carrying around an extra 50 pounds of weight, and I can tell you from practical experience, physically carrying around 50 pounds of weight will wear you out. I used to be 50 pounds heavier than what I am. Yeah, and YJ's just saying, yeah, YJ, I will absolutely take you up on that. I'm not exactly going very far. I came to the conclusion my leaving the house doesn't make me all that happy. So I hide. That's just the way my life is at this point. But no, the catch to it from my end is simple. Like I do my best to answer emails. I may go 3 or 4 days before I look at them at this point, but I do my best to get back to them. Phone calls, if they come in and I don't know who they are, the odds of my answering it are not necessarily good, although I'm getting better at it. Of course, if I don't like the person, I've got no qualms about hanging up on them. Yeah. I gotta ask you, Joe, because I used to drink, like I used to up in Canada here, we used to get either old stock, extra old stock, or I drink kokanee. Hopefully not while you're driving there, YJ. Yeah, black tourmaline. Black tourmaline works, so does hematite. Okay, as far as helping ground. Now, in my case, moldavite works even better. Of course, I've got a much stronger connection to off-world than I do to on-world, aside from the fact this body happens to be physical. I'm still looking for my book. Somewhere around this house, I've got a book called Love is in the Earth. Fabulous book for information purposes. But once you accept the fact that things can change, that you can contain which way things are going, you can absolutely, those are just a couple of things. And by the way, Raven, no, a tinfoil hat will not work. Okay. And that right there, if you put black quartz in your pocket today, literally, if you think it helps, it does. Yeah, I was lucky. Mine was gifted to me. Mine, the person that I got it from, I have no idea who it was, but they went right to Czechoslovakia, picked the piece up, brought it home with them, and then turned it over to a good friend of mine. As a matter of fact, she used to be my partner in crime 400 years ago-ish. And that was the only 2 people that handled that stone. And then it got handed to me. I'm just finishing off my pot, of coffee. But, I keep telling myself, coffee doesn't, I got told literally, drink as much as you want. You're welcome. And, the thing is, when tinfoil hats they look neat, and they sold a lot. I think it was in the 50s when they really made a run at it. But they don't work well. Although they are a great conversation point. But no, the thing is, we've got to really look at whether you're content with where your life is. The question I was going to ask, and we'll be getting off here soon, but I'm going to be dealing with the end of an epoch in April, and I think it'll cover most of April and might get into part of May. But then I'm in a quandary whether I should go with the self-help books or whether I should go with the races of the worlds. Okay, as far as going into that. Yeah, I watched Signs. I don't recall it, so I should probably watch it again one day. But I haven't seen Signs. I saw it the right early when it first came out, but that was, and if I recall correctly, that was starring Mel Gibson, was it not? There, YJ. Funny thing is, there is so much about the signs that are out there that are actually interlocked that people, if people would communicate more and share their ideas and their insights, it would be so much easier to put two and two together. But so many people are taught that you've got to have this all to yourself. Okay, and that to me doesn't add up. But I will be sorting that side of things out. But in any event, what do we got here? Yeah, okay. Yeah, Signs is a like I said, it was an interesting movie. I should go back and watch it. But guys, I really do have to say thank you so much for joining me. Sorry about missing the last couple of days. My life just does that on occasion. But as per what you guys have said, I will continue on. If you've got a preference, the two different venues I've got in May, this is why I've got a lot of time to work on it. I'm going to continue with the reading on the Sunday and see how that goes. But the next one coming up will be The End of an Epoch, which is a sequel to The Birth of the Wolfpack. What I won't do is I'm not going to read the prologue because it comes straight out of the Birth of the Wolfpack. Right. So I'm not going to read all that, but once I'm done there, okay, then I've got to figure out whether I'm going to the races of the worlds. Like I said, I've got 107 of them now. Okay, that I've got documented. Or into the self-help series. Okay. Or, of course, we also have the children's books. If you guys have a preference, let me know. Until then, I'm going to call it a day because I got a whole pile of other things I got to get done here. And my throat's starting to seize. But then we've been at this for slightly over 2 hours. That's my fault. Anyway, thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate it. So until we meet again, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.